Greetings from Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Netviet. In today's program, let's talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the real estate market in Vietnam. And the guest speaker in our program today is Mr. Matthew Powell, the director of Savills in Hanoi. So thank you for joining us. How do you assess the real estate market of Vietnam in the first 4 months of 2020? How is the market affected by the COVID-19 pandemic?
So we're still evaluating that. Obviously, there's been a huge shock to the markets in Vietnam and globally. Maybe if we go one by one. Actually, the industrial sector, we're still seeing a lot of demand, and we're hoping to see an increased amount of demand for that based on companies looking to diversify their supply chain and continue that demand that was already here for Vietnam. The office markets, the commercial markets, obviously the retail market's been quite severely impacted, and retailers themselves have had a lot of difficulties. So the landlords have had to make quite a lot of concessions to the retailers themselves. For the office market, hopefully it won't have a huge impact because this has been quite a short period of time, and hopefully the office tenants are able to deal with this and get back to work as normally as possible. The residential market obviously slowed down as people were re-evaluating their position and looking at the long-term potential. So transactions during that period would have dropped quite significantly. So obviously it's been a lot of negative impact, but we're hoping that Vietnam, with their such strong response to the COVID-19 situation, we're hoping that Vietnam comes out of it relatively quickly and relatively healthily compared to certainly its regional neighbors.
Recently, the government of Vietnam has issued a number of fiscal and monetary policies to support the people and also the businesses. So what about the impact of it on the real estate market? What would you say?
Well, the difficulties the market has had, right? So if you're a retailer and you're asking for rental discounts, you're an office tenant asking for rental discounts, quite often those landlords, still have rent obligations and still have their own financial problems. They're a business as well, right? So it's not necessarily easy for the landlords to cover the entire loss. So any of these central fiscal policies and incentives to help businesses really help smooth out, the more violent impacts. So, we want to avoid as many companies going insolvent as possible, going out of business. We want to avoid bank repossessions or companies failing to meet their business loans or tax requirements. So I think all these incentives are very helpful, and they've been more on the business side rather than the individual side. And we're hoping that we can keep it condensed to as short a period as possible. And now Vietnam's starting to reopen slowly and safely. That we're hoping that the business environment starts to adjust and come back to normal.
It is quite popular in the COVID-19 that many businesses have applied the VR technologies and also promote the online transactions. So will this trend be continued in the future after the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, certainly. It was already happening in a strong way, but I think this has really concentrated people's need and desire to move towards a different way of doing business or more different ways of doing business. So certainly online shopping has been done well or been a winner out of this situation as people do more transactions online. Even doing business, not necessarily transactions, but obviously the online videos and virtual meetings and this type of thing. Even within Savills, we've dramatically changed the way we operate internally and meeting clients and things like this. So I think there's going to be a big impact for the way of work, how people work and interact and shop and do transactions. It's not going to go completely online. People still need to get back to normal and we'll still need to meet face to face, but I think we'll see the amount of transactions and the amount of online meetings, for example, increase to a more sizable component. It's been really interesting and really fascinating to see how people have adapted so quickly to it. There was no choice, right? So people had to adapt and had to adapt to these new technologies and expand on them. So certainly for the tech industry, they can be quite hopeful about the future.
According to the Vietnam Association of Real Estate Brokers (VARS), more than 300 of the total 1,000 real estate trading floors across the country are closed. In addition, 500 floors were operated moderately by the impact of the COVID-19 epidemic. According to the Ho Chi Minh City Real Estate Association, by the end of 2019, the total value of inventories of listed real estate enterprises reached 223,474 billion VND, an increase of 38% compared to 2018, in which there were 24 enterprises with inventory value of over 1,000 billion VND.
Đại dịch Covid-19 đã làm thay đổi tất cả, thay đổi về nhận thức, thay đổi về tư duy kinh doanh, thay đổi về cách làm trong sản xuất kinh doanh. Nó đòi hỏi doanh nghiệp hiện nay sản xuất kinh doanh, kể cả doanh nghiệp bất động sản, là phải nhắm đến mục tiêu phát triển bền vững, thân thiện môi trường và phải có trách nhiệm xã hội. Đây là một trong những cái vấn đề rất lớn mà qua đại dịch chúng ta thấy cái sự đùm bọc, cái sự chia sẻ và cái mối liên kết giữa mỗi cá nhân với cộng đồng được thể hiện rất là rõ. Chúng tôi có niềm tin là thị trường bất động sản sẽ dần dần phục hồi và tăng trưởng trở lại theo một cái hướng đó là phát triển minh bạch và bền vững.
Khó khăn thì lúc nào luôn luôn nó cũng có cái cơ hội. Chúng tôi đang đi vào phát triển nâng cao cái kỹ năng cho nhân viên, xây dựng lại cái hệ thống của chúng tôi nó căn bản hơn, làm sao đấy để khi mà gặp những cái sự cố thì chúng tôi vẫn có thể đối phó được. Khi mà cái dịch bệnh mà được đẩy lui thì chúng tôi sẽ vững chãi hơn, có nhiều cách làm nó phù hợp hơn với cái thị trường mà khi mà phát triển.
This crisis is similar to the crisis of 2008-2009 or the quiet period of 2011-2012. The tough market is also an opportunity for businesses to re-evaluate development strategies as well as restructuring their operation. Many experts said the negative impact of COVID-19 epidemic is only short-term, and in the long term, real estate is always a potential investment channel. The resort tourism segment is said to be most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So can you elaborate more on this?
You know, Vietnam's done particularly well in dealing with this situation, but that was done by closing the borders effectively, right? Which obviously stopped the tourism industry, international tourist industry, in its tracks. So, you know, that's had a fantastic result, but obviously a huge impact to the hotel sector all the way through. So from 2-star to 5-star hotels are all having difficulties, and particularly those locations such as Da Nang and Nha Trang, which relied on mostly large majority of foreign tourists, particularly if you look at Da Nang, particularly with the Korean tourist and Chinese tourism markets were obviously stopped straight away. So it's not going to be an easy road, but you know, we're hoping that the domestic tourism and domestic business travel will build up, and then as soon as the government and Ministry of Health feels that it's safe to do so, that the international borders are opened up sustainably and safely, and then it will take some time for the tourism market to recover properly.
With such challenges and also the risk, will the investors keep investing in the hotel segment, the resort segment, and also especially the condotel segment?
Yeah, so it's been very encouraging for us. You know, we speak to all our regional offices and our hotels division, and a lot of companies that are, you know, focused on investing into hospitality. So yeah, the answer is yes. People still very much believe in the international appeal. The international arrivals were going up around 30% year on year for the last few years. Domestic tourism had increased dramatically. So, you know, companies can project that, you know, once things are hopefully back to normal, that story will recover and continue in a similar trajectory.
With the efforts of Vietnam in controlling the COVID-19 pandemic, many experts said that investors will keep investing in Vietnam and choosing Vietnam as a good destination. So what would you say about this?
So investors are keen. Many investors had the financial reserves and are now looking for investment opportunities. Obviously, some hotel owners currently are maybe having difficulties. So, we'd like them to know that there are investors out there who may be willing to take over their investment if they are having problems.
What would you say about the future of a real estate market in Vietnam once the COVID-19 pandemic is controlled in the quarter two?
Vietnam property market and Vietnam's economy has been in a very strong and growing situation. A lot of that is driven by the domestic economy and the demographics. So, those things aren't changing. So we're expecting Vietnam to be able to rebound. Obviously, it's a major impact to Vietnam as any other country in the world, but we're hoping that Vietnam's quick reaction at the beginning will enable them to react very quickly once they're able to. So that the demographics and the business confidence still remain. There's a strong domestic consumer market for all sorts of industries. There's a strong export market. We've seen a huge amount of industrial manufacturing move to Vietnam even before COVID-19, and our phone is continuing to ring every day with companies looking to move or expand their operations here in Vietnam. So, without sounding, overconfident, we're feeling quite bullish on Vietnam's prospects coming out of this. And given the way that they've handled the health situation, I think we're going to be in a good position, certainly in the Southeast Asia, Asia-Pacific region.
Once again, thank you for joining us and for your sharings today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And that's all we have for this episode of Sharing Vietnam today. For comment and feedback, don't hesitate to write to us at sharingvietnam@netvietTV.net. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.